It's Brian Preston, the Money Guy.
What are some tips and tricks you can do to avoid the hedonic happiness trap? And I want to kind of go through these. The first thing I think is, because everybody's pushing consumption upon you, let's get really deliberate with separating when you spend money. Is this go into, there's three categories. There's the need column. Hey, this is what I need to put food on the table for my family. This is what I need to have shelter over my head. This is, what I need to have clothes on my body. That's something you can't get away from. And then there's, of course, love. Things that you love to do, like if you like to travel, things that make it just worth living and enjoying life. You need to know what those things are. I want you to spend some time on that. So needs are important. Love, the things that you love doing are very important. But then there's this third column, wants. And that's just not as healthy, because it's just something you're like, that would make my life a little bit better. I'd kind of like to have that. That's not at the same level as a need or a love.
Now, what's really interesting is we have an upcoming show that you guys will get to see. We're talking about relative wealth, right? Because it's this really interesting concept that we're going to dive into. In the world in which we live, sometimes we have a really difficult time discerning what are those things that we really need. Well, do I need a new car? Do I need the new wardrobe? Do I need the fill in the blank? That's why we put the love in there. There's nothing wrong. Don't mishear us. There's nothing wrong with consumption. There's nothing wrong with buying new cars. There's nothing wrong with buying expensive coffee if that's the thing that you love. But you need to discern how it falls into your consumption behavior. And is it something that I actually love, or is it just something I kind of want? Is it just something that I could walk away from? And if you can figure that out early on, you'll prevent yourself from just getting in this trap where all these nice things, the nice coffees, the nice cars, the nice whatever, don't just feel like everyday, mundane, trivial purchases that you're making.
Well, you hear there's a lot of other consumer advocates and people in the financial space who say, like, if you struggle with this type of stuff, go put your credit card actually in a cup of water and freeze it and do all these things. I kind of do my own version of this. I put a forced waiting period on once by over researching. I mean, but here's what I think that I would encourage everybody to understand. When I go on, I have a tendency to hyperfocus, and I think a lot of financial mutants, you probably are the same way. So if I see something, I'll immediately have this burning desire that I need that. Like when I go to a neighbor's house, I remember the first time I saw a big green egg smoker, and I had wings, the smoked wings off of it. And I was like, I need to go buy this thing. So I over-researched.
Sure.
I will tell you, I ended up buying this because it fell into that love column. But I researched this thing for a good month and a half to 2 months on what size, which brands, what accessories. And the reason I do that is because there's other things in my life where I've done them, and then I'm like, I don't really need that. And it came to the realization because I was over-researching and my more sane, stable brain overtook. So I'm encouraging you, because you can do this on trips. If you can figure out if it's a want or a love, when you're planning that trip, by over-researching, because it puts an automatic waiting period so that hopefully that striking desire that you're burning up with to do this will have a time to subside down to something more normal, and your normal brain, your rational brain, will step in and actually decide if this is something you really need to do.
Another thing that you can do to kind of help with that normal, rational part of your brain is figure out how to rotate your I can't even say it without, that's a genius phrase. Rotate your happiness crops. If there are things that bring you happiness, that give you that dopamine hit, try to stretch them out. The example that you came up with, Brian, is if you love eating out, and eating out is a thing that you enjoy, and breaking bread and being out in public with other people, don't eat out every single night. Put some scarcity around those and figure out how you can spread those things out so that they're still special, they're still nice, they're still things that you enjoy. Again, they just don't become everyday, plain, and boring.
Well, you can love something to death.
Sure.
I mean, the reason I said rotate crops, and I use crops on purpose, is because anybody who's around agriculture or farming knows if you plant the same thing over and over again, all of a sudden you wonder, why is it not fruitful? Why is it not generating the bumper crops that it was previously? It's because you sucked everything good out of the ground. You have to rotate. You have to spread things out so that there's a regenerative process. I don't like it when you see this with a relationship relationships. You see this with consumption. You see this. If you do things too much that you love, you'll numb yourself to the point that you actually kill the happiness part of it. So that's why I'm saying spread it out. And we see this. Remember, we'll go back to the lottery winners. The big mistake I see people, like, let's say you come into a windfall. It could be from a lottery. It could be from an inheritance. It could be from selling a business, selling some land. I always try to tell people to slow it down. You don't have to make big, fast decisions, because the worst thing you can do is what that lottery winner typically does is they go and they buy exactly in the order. They go buy the car, they buy the house, they buy the boat. They start just throwing money around, and then they're surprised because they do all this. They cram it all into about 3 months to 6 months, and then they come out the other end and go, gosh, I still feel the same way. If you're going to spend money, I'm thinking about purchasing the car, buying the new house. Spread that stuff out. I mean, that's why whenever somebody comes to us with a windfall, I really do try to have coaching about, hey, congratulations. Now you need to kind of let's build in our own waiting period through planning of, hey, let's write down the next 3 to 5 year goal list. Maybe, okay, your wife needs a new car. Let's talk about that. Okay, y'all want to buy another house. You want to upgrade your house. When should we do this? Oh, wait a minute, we don't need to do the lake house yet. Let's wait. We just bought the new house. Let's kind of spread out the lake house. And what I'm trying to do as a coach is to encourage this person to enjoy each of that sugar high you get. You let that be a fun endeavor, absorb it, but then you rotate that pleasure crop to move on to something else for a period. Enough time goes by that then when you go buy the next thing, you get the same high. If you do all this on top of each other, you're going to come out on the other end and be like, what happened? That just wasn't what I thought it was going to be.
And you need to understand that when it comes to making these decisions, there's a gravity to them. You need to understand the biggest money pitfalls. If you're going out and buying coffee every day, that is a different thing than you making the decision to go buy the lake house. And with the lake house, you got to put in the dock. And with the dock, you got to get the boat. And with the boat, you got to get the cedars. And all of a sudden, your financial situation has changed because you fell into that hedonic happiness trap. You got on that treadmill of consumption. Make sure you pause and take a step back and figure out, okay, is this something that I actually need and love, or is this just something that I want? Again, there's nothing wrong with buying a vacation home or buying a lake house or getting the boat or getting the sea-doos, assuming you've done the appropriate planning and it's not an impulsive hedonic decision that you are making.